Hi, everyone who's joined. We're going to wait a minute or two to let some folks come in, so sit tight and thanks for being here. Let's give it another 30 seconds or so, and then we'll be off. Thanks. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining. We're really excited to have you here today to talk about the Energy Storage Innovations Prize. My name is Lance Hawley, and I am part of the National Renewable Energy Lab, or NREL, and I am a prize administrator for this specific prize here, and I'm going to be covering all the different aspects of this prize today. With me is Ben Schrager, and he is from the Department of Energy's Office of Electricity, who is hosting and funding this prize. Ben, thanks for joining us today. Ben is going to be talking about some of the technical background and specifics of this prize as we go through the presentation. And then both Ben and I are going to be available for any of your questions. We also have Rebecca Martineau, who's going to be running the show here behind the scenes, monitoring the chat and the Q&A, and generally making things go smoothly. Thank you, Rebecca. So once again, thanks everyone for joining this informational webinar on the Energy Storage Innovations Prize. Just a few pieces of housekeeping to get us started here. One is that this webinar is being recorded, so we'll make it available later. And that's if you run into any issues with it, or you can't make all of it, or you would like someone else that you know to maybe view this webinar in the future. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So you'll notice by your chat box, there's also a Q&A box. Feel free to put any questions in there as we are presenting, but then we will address all questions at the end. And then if you do experience any technical issues, always check that audio tab to see if there's any settings that you can adjust to make sure you're able to see and hear everything correctly. And again, we are going to post a recording later. So if anything goes wrong, you will be able to access this information afterwards. All right. So here's our agenda for today. Over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to go through these following points. I'm going to give just a brief overview of the whole American Made Challenges program to give some context for this prize. We're going to do a big picture view of the Energy Storage Innovations Prize itself, go into what you can win as a competitor. Ben is going to talk about some background information regarding how this prize fits into the greater picture of energy storage work that's going on at DOE and in other areas. Then we'll talk about eligibility and make sure everyone knows what it takes to be a part of this prize. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into the submission requirements so that you know exactly what is being asked of you as a potential competitor and what those pieces entail. We'll talk about how to register your team and how to submit your actual materials. We'll talk about a timeline so that you know what you're looking at in terms of due dates. We'll review the scoring process so that you know the actual ways that our submission process of review looks and how you can get different scores. And then at the end, we'll have just a few supports and resources for you, and then Q&A, as well as what's next to expect. So our big goal here is that you leave this session with a full understanding of this prize, what it entails, and you have a good idea of how to compete and if this is the right prize for you to compete in. So with that, let's just do a quick little overview of the American Made Challenges and Network. Some of you might be already familiar, and this might be new to others. So INREL, it has this program called American Made, and we like to call it the fast track to the clean energy revolution. This program is funded by the Department of Energy, and it's run and managed here at INREL, and this is how our prize system works. This specific prize is one of many that we have already put on or in the process of putting on, and it's all under this idea of getting innovators and entrepreneurs a fast track to getting prize money to advance their ideas and to overall change the trajectory of clean energy across the country. So as you can see here, our goal is to supercharge a revolution of bold ideas. That's your bold ideas. We've given out already over $100 million in cash prizes and support through this American Made program. We're at more than 30 prizes given out and in progress, and that number is quickly approaching 40. And we have 250 and counting network members who are different organizations around the country who have gotten involved, provide services, and help support these different prizes. This whole program is only about 5 years old, and we started with one prize. So it's been a very cool journey, and we're really excited to have you be part of this latest prize, the Energy Storage Innovations Prize. So that's the American Made program. Now I'd like to do a big picture view of this specific Energy Storage Innovations Prize. So this is kind of the bird's eye view of what we're looking at with this specific prize. So what is it? This is a call for promising next generation solutions to energy storage challenges. We want to get innovators with nascent and emerging technology proposals to come compete for a portion of what's in total a $300,000 cash prize. Different competitors will propose their grid scale, long duration capable energy storage innovations and technologies. And we judge these submissions based on their quality, including the 2030 levelized cost of storage goals, supply chain considerations, equity, and various other strengths that we list in our rules document. So this, again, is a call for people to submit their unique, new, innovative ideas for energy storage. They're going to help push the status quo. And this is a great opportunity to get some prize funding and get those ideas out there. So what can you win by being a part of a prize competition like this one? So, like I said, we have a $300,000 total cash prize pool. We're going to award up to 5 what we're calling energy storage champions, and each of those 5 will get $50,000 each. And then we will also have up to 5 energy storage finalists, which will receive up to $10,000 each. And again, that's 5 at the $50,000 level and 5 at the $10,000 level. In addition, all of our winners are going to have the potential opportunity for their teams and innovations to be listed in a future report to Congress. And we think that's a really exciting opportunity. We will have more details on this coming up in the future. And I would like to note it's never a guarantee. There are a few things that would need to happen to make sure we've got all the right pieces in place, but we would love to be able to highlight some of the winners or all of the winners of this prize competition in a future report to Congress that is basically on the state of energy storage across the country in terms of what is new and innovative and coming up. So that's what you can win. I do have a quick note here. As part of our prize program, we pay these cash prizes to the team captains. You do have to fill out a couple documents for banking information and tax information. And then team captains are responsible for distributing prize funds among their team members. So if you do submit as part of a bigger team, one team captain gets paid, and it's up to them to distribute those funds as they see fit and as the team sees fit there, which is an important point to note. If you're new to our prize format here, these prizes are cash. They are not grant funding where you have to report on what you do with them. They are cash prizes. It is up to you how to use that money. And this is kind of the big part of the American Made Challenges, to get some money into folks' hands to reward them for cool, new, innovative ideas, in this case, in the world of energy storage. So that's an overview of what you can win. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ben Schrager, again, from the Department of Energy's Office of Electricity. And Ben is going to talk a little bit about the background of how this prize came to be. Go ahead, Ben.
Great. Thanks so much, Lance. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on your time zone. Happy Storage Innovations Week. This is our week to celebrate storage innovation across all technology maturity levels and all different technologies. So Lance gave a great introduction to this prize, its opportunity, and I'm going to talk a little more about DOE's broader strategy, thinking about storage innovations. So we can go to the next slide. All right, if you've been following anything with DOE's energy storage strategy, you're probably familiar with the long duration storage shot. This was our goal that we launched just over a year ago to reduce storage costs by 90% by 2030 for long duration storage. These are systems that can deliver 10 plus hours. And of course, the importance of long duration storage cannot be overstated on everything from decarbonization to resilience, to powering remote communities and energy equity, many other significant benefits that we see with storage. And our aggressive goal is to get the costs down a lot. The specific number that we go for is 5 cents per kilowatt hour levelized cost of storage. And we have some more detailed methodologies to actually make those calculations that we won't necessarily get into now. But this is our broader strategy and initiative. And if we go, click ahead one more time, we really see this need, which is to get a specific actionable roadmap for how we're going to get from here to 2030 through developing, scaling, and deploying the most promising and innovative technologies to meet our goal. So how do we get from here to there? That is where our next part of the strategy comes in on the next slide, with Storage Innovations 2030. So this is our new initiative to get from today to tomorrow, essentially, both by investing in known technologies and learning about and discovering the innovative emerging technologies that maybe are less mature. So again, all about developing our strategy. And this is in line with congressional direction and direction of the administration and the department to develop a specific and accountable plan to achieve these long duration storage shot goals. We're doing this with 3 main pillars. The first is this SI flight paths. This is about developing industry consortia and enhancing collaboration, looking probably more at mid to later stage technologies that have more established industries. So this effort is about bringing together industry and enhancing facilitated collaborations, potentially for the first time. The next component is the framework. This is about quantifying the benefits of R&D activities. So for established technologies that we know are going to be part of DOE's storage strategy, we want to ask the question, how would certain portfolios of investment impact the cost in the future for a certain technology? So for lithium-ion batteries or for flow batteries, how would certain investments, for example, impact the cost? And that's what the framework sets out to discover. And we are already beginning that extensive industry engagement effort to learn more about the different framework technologies and their impacts on the future of storage. But that doesn't cover everything. Under the framework, we're only looking at about 10 technologies, 7 to 10 technologies for focus for the future. But there are many other potential technologies that DOE recognizes as being potentially critical to the future of energy storage. And that's where this prize comes in. This prize is the opportunity to highlight these emerging, innovative, and exciting technology ideas that maybe have not had a chance to be put in front of DOE before. We want your really exciting, next generation out there ideas that could potentially transform the future of energy storage. And that's what this prize is about. So if we go to the next slide, we can see that there are many technologies that we are potentially interested in for the prize. This list on the left is non-exhaustive and just covers a set of some of the possible technologies that we're looking for. This includes everything from different electrochemical chemistries, mechanical storage, thermal storage, chemical storage, and even exciting ideas around flexible buildings and flexible generation. Eligible for this prize include private entities, non-federal government entities, academic institutions, and individuals are all eligible to submit their innovative ideas. And again, this list on the left covers some of the technologies that we're interested in, but not necessarily all. So going on to the next slide, we see the technologies that are not of interest for this prize. As I mentioned, DOE is already looking at these technologies as part of the Storage Innovations Framework effort. We will be conducting extensive industry collaboration and industry engagement for information on these 7 technologies and potentially a few more. So these technologies will already be represented in DOE's storage strategy. We already plan for thorough engagement. So the point of this prize is not to further highlight these exciting technologies, which will have a role for the future, but is really to look at everything else and what are the innovative nascent ideas that are out there. Now, it's important to note that we recognize that some of these technology categories may be fluid. So if your technology solution falls within or adjacent to one of these technology areas, you may still be eligible, but you do have to describe how your technology significantly redefines that family of technologies. And more information on that is included in the rules. But if you have a technology that is one of these 7, but just includes enhanced cost or performance, that will likely not be eligible for this prize. But we still really want to hear from you. So if you do have one of these 7 technologies, that is great. And we really want to include your feedback in DOE's storage strategy. So there'll be opportunities to connect on the Storage Innovations website. One more note, we will not be taking questions on specific case-by-case eligibility for technology. We have more descriptions of what's eligible in the rules documents, in the HeroX guidelines tab, and in the FAQ. So I highly encourage you to go take a look. But again, really what we're going for here are the really innovative ideas that DOE might not have heard of before. And for these technologies, we still want to engage. So hope that clears up a little bit about some of our eligibility and how excited I am for this prize. This is DOE's first ever energy storage prize. And with that, I think I'll turn it back to Lance.
Great. Thanks, Ben, so much for that in-depth look that helps put this prize into context. And I'll just emphasize again, we have a full rules document. I'm going to show you how to access that, that we encourage everyone to read through to have a very complete sense of not only technology eligibility, but general eligibility, which is what I'm going to cover here. So Ben just touched on a few of these. And the reason I'm repeating these is because for typical American-made prizes, these are things that you're going to see quite often. For example, the prize is open to, again, as Ben said, private entities, non-federal government entities, academic institutions, and individuals, with a few caveats, as you can see on the right side here. So if you're a private entity, you have to be incorporated and maintain a primary place of business in the United States. If you're an academic institution, that institution must be based in the United States. And individuals, if they're applying for this prize on their own, if they're not part of a private entity, they have to be U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents. Again, these are pretty blanket eligibility rules across almost all of our prizes, with the greater goal of making sure that a lot of this DOE-funded prize endeavors are accelerating the pace of clean energy technologies here in the U.S., which amounts to this same prize as well. So again, if you have further questions on these, we encourage you to consult the rules document for a full breakdown and description. So let's get into the submission process for this prize, for the Energy Storage Innovations Prize. There are 3 things that we are asking competitors, either individuals or as teams, to submit. And the first part is a video. The second part is a narrative, and the third part is a summary slide. So the video that we're asking competitors to submit is a 90-second introduction video. And the whole point here is to just introduce your team and introduce your innovation. And that video is made public so that we can highlight you and show you off in terms of being able to promote winning individuals and teams. The narrative is going to be the bulk of the submission. It's a written paper, and it's a 3,000 word maximum that answers 4 questions. And you can see those questions here. And we also have a note that this paper is NDA protected. Any judges who will be viewing your papers will be signing NDAs to protect intellectual property and protect your ideas. And then the third part of the submission is a summary slide, which is a 1-slide PowerPoint, Google Slides, what have you, summary of your team, your mission, and your innovation, which is also made public. Just a couple notes here. First is both that video and summary slide being made public means these are things that DOE would use for potential winners to show them off and be able to highlight them. And that's the only purpose for making those public. That narrative is not made public. And again, it is NDA protected. For anyone who is concerned about intellectual property, you are covered. The second thing is we don't want anyone to be scared off by the idea of making a video. This is not meant to be, a very professionally made expert lighting, graphics, anything like that. This is just meant to be a fun way to introduce your team that has that video element. And so it's just a different kind of medium. And is, something that people like to see to show off a bit more of the personality of the team and who they are. So we don't want anyone to worry about a video part. The narrative really is the big bulk of this submission. And these 4 questions we're going to go through in depth so that you know exactly what we're looking for each one. So that's just a summary of these different parts. And I'm also going to say one last part is that we have certain supports in place to help you with these various components of your submission. So if you're looking at this and saying that seems like a lot, or I don't know how to do certain parts of this, we have some supports in place to help you that I'm going to go through a little bit later. But for now, let's dive into the narrative. So again, the goal of today's whole presentation is for you to leave having a very good idea of what is being asked of you as a competitor for this prize. So we want to go through each of these questions. And these are pulled directly from our rules document. Question number 1 that you're being asked to answer in your narrative is simply, what is your storage technology innovation? So you can see on the left that we provide suggested content. And then on the right, we provide scoring criteria. We want to be as transparent as possible about how you will receive a score. So for what is your technology, we would like you to provide a thorough technical description of the technology with any detailed diagrams or schematics as appropriate. Provide information and performance data from any simulations or tests or demonstrations that you've done. And we would like you to include a description of how the technology moves beyond the state of the art and is better than the existing solutions. So as Ben was alluding to in his portion on the background of this, we want to see what are these exciting new technologies and how are they pushing the field in directions that are new or better than what is already out there. For this category, we provide 2 scores, and they're always on a 1 to 6 scale. 1 is low, 6 is high. The first score is that your technology describes very clearly how, or your description shows very clearly how your technology works or is intended to work if it's in the very early stages, including technical feasibility backed up with any test demonstrations or simulations that you've run. And then your second score is that your technology description is innovative and it's a compelling solution that moves that energy storage sector beyond the state of the art. So again, each of these points would receive a score for a total of up to 12 points on this category of what is your energy storage innovation. The second question has to do with how your technology supports DOE's goal for cost-effective, long-duration energy storage. And that's what Ben was talking about a little bit earlier. We're also looking at other DOE priorities. You can see a list here, such as a sustainable supply chain, energy equity, enhanced resilience, or other innovative storage use cases that your technology may meet. So the whole purpose of this question is to say, how is your technology reaching a lot of the stated goals or heading in that direction of reaching these goals? For example, we would like you to provide a current and 2030 LCOS estimation. And we've got some resources there to help you frame and reference the LCOS methodology. We would like you to include details about the anticipated power ratings and durations for given cost. Relate your LCOS estimations to the long duration storage shot goal, and then provide a clear description of your innovation's value proposition and other technology benefits and how they align with DOE priorities. Just like the first question, for this one, we're going to be giving 2 scores on that same 1 to 6 scale. The first score is based on your included descriptions, calculations, and projections that you're showing that your technology has a pathway to reach the long duration storage shot goal with feasible and realistic estimates. And then your second score is around if your technology can clearly and robustly benefit DOE priorities, such as we've mentioned before, the sustainable supply chain, energy equity, enhancing resilience, and others. So the whole sort of crux of this question here is to say, how does your technology support DOE's goals and reach towards other sorts of considerations and factors that are a priority for DOE? So that was questions 1 and 2. Question 3 is a little more straightforward, and simply what challenges are associated with the development and deployment of your technology. So you just need to provide a list of potential technical barriers or challenges that additional RD&D is needed to address, and then a list of key technology and commercialization risks that might be related to any future scale up or future demonstration or testing for your technology. For this question, we just give 1 score on that 1 to 6 scale. 1 score, but it does take the following 2 points into account. 1 is that you have a realistic and well thought out description of the barriers and challenges, and including any potential solutions and RD&D areas of consideration. So you would say, these are what we're looking at in terms of challenges, and this is how we would address them or anticipate them. And then as well, just giving thoughtful consideration to any risks related to scale up and further demonstration. So this is question 3, all just about looking in the future, what challenges would be associated with your technology or the development of it. And that just leaves us with the last question, which is also future focused on how you plan to further develop or commercialize your technology. So we suggest that you include the RD&D activities needed to further develop your technology, highlight how the anticipated next steps will build upon the progress that you've made thus far, list what types of project partners are needed to continue your technology development and demonstration, so who else you might want to involve, and highlight how additional investment would help further your technology development. For this question, same as the last one, we provide just a single score. You can see a lot of bullet points on the right, but it is just a single score from 1 to 6, taking these statements into consideration. So do you provide a clear list of future RD&D activities to develop your technology? Do you provide clear links to establish the current state of the technology and the areas of development needed to reach your future goals? Do you have thorough descriptions of the types of essential project partners? And do you include compelling evidence of how additional funding could help progress the development of the technology? So this is the last question, focusing on a future look at development and commercialization of technology. Again, just to recap, question 1, you're simply answering what is your technology. Question 2, you're linking your technology or innovation to DOE's stated goals for the energy storage sector and others. Question 3, challenges you anticipate in the future. And question 4, further development in the future and further commercialization. So hopefully that gives you a strong sense of what we're looking for in these narrative papers. Remember, they're a 3,000 word maximum, and you can include diagrams, schematics, tests, and any other types of data that will help show off your innovation. So next, I would like to just review what we're looking at in terms of timing. This prize actually launched a couple weeks ago on October 17th. So it's been open for a couple weeks. Maybe some of you who are following the prize saw it the day that it launched. Very exciting. December 16th is when the submissions are due. So we're looking at another 6 or so weeks before submissions are due, and that's at 5 p.m. Eastern. All of December and January, after the prize closes, will be the evaluation of submissions. And I'm going to talk about how that works in terms of our judging process. But that process usually takes 6 weeks, sometimes up to 2 months. And so in February, we anticipate will be the announcement of the winners. And so that's just a review of what we're looking at for the timeline here. This timeline is also located on HeroX, and I'm going to show you how to access that in just another slide here. So you can always track where you are in relation to deadlines. So here's an example of HeroX, and this is how you register, and this is how you compete. So if some of you found this webinar from HeroX, you're in the know. And if some of you heard about it from other sources, HeroX is our hub. So this is the online home base for this prize. And you can see a screenshot of HeroX on the right side here. Everyone who's competing in this prize will need to go through HeroX. Again, it's sort of our hub for any prize competition. The link is provided there. I'll also provide it in a follow-up email to this entire group. We can also copy this link into the chat for everyone. But what you're going to do is on the HeroX site, on this Energy Storage Innovations Challenge page, you're going to choose, it'll either say solve this challenge or begin entry, kind of depending on your status. This indicates your interest in competing. It's not a commitment, so you can sort of go through the process to see what that entails. You have to either sign in, or if you don't have a HeroX account, create one, agree to the terms of use, confirm email. You do have to accept the challenge-specific agreement. I suggest reading that closely just to make sure you know what you're agreeing to as being part of an American-made prize challenge. And then indicate if you're competing as a team. If you're an individual, that's fine. And if you're a team, there are a few other specifics that you would need to list there so that we know who's a part of the team. And then submit final submission materials prior to the close date, which is again, December 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern. I would like to remind everyone right now, there's one team captain who will be doing all of the submission process on HeroX. So one team captain. We already covered some eligibility. Make sure that team captain is eligible. And if you end up being a prize winner, all prize funds go to that team captain. That team captain decides how to distribute that those funds. INREL is not part of that distribution process. All right. Next, let's talk about once you've done your submission, how does the judging and scoring process work? So it's a 6-stage process here, and we show this for full transparency of how it works. So we're going to have a qualified panel of judges that comprise subject matter experts from within energy storage industries, and they're the ones who score final submissions. Our official rules document, which is located on HeroX, provides details on the scoring statements that judges will evaluate. And I showed you a little bit on those previous slides where we have this 6-point scale. And the judges use that scale. A 1 is strongly disagree, all the way up to 6, which is strongly agree. And so for questions 1 and 2, if you remember, there are 2 scored statements on that 6-point scale. Question 3 and question 4 each only have a single statement or a single score, I should say, that covers several statements. And so the judges are saying how strongly they agree or disagree with those statements based on what you provided. The score from an individual judge is the summed total of the scores for all the evaluation statements. You've got 4 questions, 2 questions, 2 questions, 1 and 1 for a total of 2, 4, 6 scored statements. So that is the total score that you will receive. All judge scores are then averaged for a preliminary score for each submission. So if you have 3 judges looking at your submission, you get 3 scores and we take the average. Those preliminary scores for all the teams yield a preliminary ranking of the teams. And that ranking is what the judges are going to use to review, make sure that that ranking looks good and is agreed upon, because those top 10 are the ones that are going to be recommended as the winners of the prize to DOE. And if you recall, the top 5 will be champions at $50,000 each, and then the next 5 will be finalists at $10,000 each. Very important to note, those top 10 are recommended to DOE, and DOE does make the final determination of the winners. And so throughout this whole scoring process, DOE does have final say on who those winners are and how the prize money is distributed for those winners. So that's an overview of the judging and scoring process. Again, if any of this is confusing, we're happy to answer questions on it in the Q&A section coming up in just a bit here. A few parts to wrap up before we can get to some of your questions. And the first one is how you can get support for a prize. Through the American Made program, we have a network of organizations that we call power connectors. For this prize, we have a power connector, and their name is EFN, Entrepreneur Futures Network. And I believe some of their members are on today's call. So thank you, EFN, for being part of this prize. How does this work? Power connectors are support for you as a competitor, and they are subcontracted through us, through InRel. So they do not cost you anything. You don't have to pay. It's free support. It's free advice. It's free ability to have conversations about your submission or about the prize itself. So again, these are subcontractors through InRel, and they are here to help support you. For this prize, like I said, we have subcontracted with EFN, and we're very happy and proud to work alongside them in this prize. Their role is to provide free and equal support to any interested prize competitors, and we highly encourage you to take advantage of that support. There is a post in the resources tab on HeroX that lists full contact information for EFN, including email, as well as an option to sign up for one-to-one office hours. Again, I highly encourage competitors with questions or who want to bounce ideas off somebody to take advantage of these office hours. A big reason that EFN is involved in this prize is their very strong network to the energy storage industry and strong connections of work in the past within this realm. So we highly encourage you to talk with them if you have any questions, concerns, or just want to bounce some ideas around about how to make your submission as competitive as possible. EFN is also hosting a virtual networking event coming up in another couple weeks on November 16th at noon. This will be an opportunity to network and meet with other people who might be in this industry and might be in this sector, ask questions. Maybe you are part of an energy storage innovation, but you need some other team members to make the full package come together. Great place to see if you can team up with some others who might be in a similar position. So I will be sending a follow-up email to everyone on this webinar with the recording of this webinar and with a link to sign up for EFN's virtual event. That information is also posted on HeroX as well. So thank you to EFN for supporting this prize, and I highly encourage everyone to take advantage of their support. Okay, so what are your next steps? If you are interested in competing in this prize, we would love to hear from you. We would love to see your cool new energy storage innovations. So your first step is to recruit any team members that you might need, or community partners or local organizations. Depends on your innovation and what you need. If you're a team of one or a small business and you're ready to go, great. Make sure to register your team on HeroX. Make sure you read the rules thoroughly. Plan your participation, leverage support resources like EFN, like resources that get posted on HeroX. And even within the rules, we've posted some links to some very specific information that will help you frame your narrative. And then make sure to design your plan and put together your submission materials by December 16th. Remember that that is the video, the narrative, and the submission slide. We do have a template on HeroX that will help guide your submission if you'd like to use that, and everything is laid out in the rules for you. With that, we have covered all of the pertinent information regarding the Energy Storage Innovations Prize. I want to say thank you so much for everyone for joining today. We're very excited to get this prize out there and see what people have come up with. And at this point, Ben and I are available for your questions. We'll do our best to answer them. And again, I would encourage people to make sure to visit the HeroX site, make sure to read those rules, and we have a prize-specific email address if you have questions. The HeroX platform also has a forum where people can post questions, and we're able to answer those publicly for everyone. So with that, let's jump into the Q&A. And if anyone does need to leave early, we thank you so much for attending today. I'm going to stop the share, pull up our Q&A. All right. Ben, are you able to see the Q&A with me here?
Yes.
So first question was, is the challenge all about batteries, or is there room for hydrogen storage?
All right. I think we answered that in the slides. Definitely not all about batteries. And hydrogen storage is listed as one of the potentially eligible technologies.
Great. Then we have, each energy system have a technical regulation for engineering, construction, and operation. Until now, it was only for generation. Do you update also for storage, because each technology have its place on the load curve?
So the regulatory side of storage is obviously of vital importance for more storage deployments in the future. We are not so much focused on those regulations in this prize. This is a technically focused prize just on the technology ideas themselves. We hope that with other DOE efforts and other conversations around regulation, we can continue to make improvements in that area for a broader future deployment.
Great. So we have, can you describe generally who will be involved in the evaluation scoring of the prize proposals? Will they be soliciting expertise from different areas of DOE, other government agencies, private academic evaluators?
Yeah, so we will be, our intent is to have DOE, federal employees, and national lab representatives be the complete set of judges. That is our intent. It's not stated in the rules strictly. So it's not something we can 100% guarantee, but our full intent is to ensure that all of the judges are DOE adjacent or affiliated. And regardless, each will be required to sign an NDA for protection of your data.
Great. Can YouTube videos be used to present your ideas? And so as we covered in the submission requirements, you will have a YouTube or Vimeo or a similar platform for your team introduction video, but all of your pertinent information regarding the 4 questions that are being scored should be in your written narrative. You're free to introduce your innovation, your technology, sort of by name or kind of your very brief description as part of the video, but the scored narrative is where you'll want to put all of your details of your ideas. Next question is, what about end of life and zero waste predictions and requirements for innovation submissions?
So end of life and recyclability, supply chain, these are also critical elements of really any technology into the future. The prize is technology focused. So we want your specific technology ideas. End of life or zero waste innovations can certainly be a part of your submission, but we will need to see some kind of technology proposed. If you have some interesting insight on end of life or zero waste for some of the more established technologies, there's a lot of work being done for lithium, end of life, and supply chain, for example. We'd still love to hear about that, just not in this prize opportunity.
Great. We have, to prevent bias, shouldn't the high and low scores be disregarded? And so during our scoring process, we have multiple judges look at each submission, as we had covered there, which helps us get that sort of average score, which will help balance out potential outliers. But then as well, as I described, the scoring process really is meant to just get a baseline recommendation for DOE to make that final determination. So things like score outliers are certainly going to be looked at and taken into consideration and tried to average out as much as possible. All the judges will reconvene at the end to make sure that that final list, in this case of the top 10, who would be eligible for those prizes, is what they want to see, and that there's no outliers that seem very contrary to what is expected of the prize results. We have a three-part question here. Number 1, is unique entity identifier required for this challenge? Ben, I don't believe so.
Yeah, that gets into some of the more specific eligibility within the rules. So whatever we say in the rules about that is what we're going to be enforcing.
And then part 2 says, our team really wants to make a difference by creating the actual product to impact the climate change revolution. What contracting possibilities will there be, private or public? Getting listed on a government website might not help as much.
Definitely. And we fully acknowledge that this kind of prize opportunity for an earlier stage technology really is the first step in a lot of cases for getting our technology more widely commercialized. At this time, there's no specific follow-on opportunities beyond what is included as the prize awards. And again, that opportunity to potentially be highlighted in the report to Congress and listed on our websites. So for us, we really view it as both a monetary and a visibility benefit. So we hear you, and there are many, many other opportunities to actually go out and create these systems. I could also point everybody to the bipartisan infrastructure law, energy storage provisions there. There was an RFI released earlier this year, and that lists some announcements that are potentially upcoming. So one more opportunity, but the scope of this prize is bound to the earlier stage strategy development.
Great. And can you post the slides on HeroX page? Yes. So these slides, as well as the whole recorded webinar, will be posted on HeroX. Thank you. Next question is, how do we complete LCOS if not all of the values have been determined experimentally or theoretically?
Yeah, that's a great question. And our answer really is to do your best. We recognize that different technologies have different information available in terms of what's actually feasible to estimate right now. At one point, we're going to release a spreadsheet that had a lot of different values to fill in, but we decided to do away with that because we wanted to give a little more flexibility in what you share. So we just want to see some kind of evidence or idea that your system has a pathway to meet our cost targets in the future.
And then what are you considering as long duration storage in storage hours?
So we're considering long duration storage to be 10 plus hours of duration. The reasoning in part has to do with diurnal cycling and the storage system that can get you through the night if being powered by solar panels. For more information on long duration storage and definitions, I would point you to the long duration storage shot page on DOE, which you can find pretty easily by just Googling long duration storage shot.
Okay. Question that says, how about if we have two storage technologies? So I'm assuming this question means a single competitor would have two different yet both eligible technologies to apply. And I believe we would like to hear about both of them. And a competitor could submit two, as long as I would assume they are significantly different from each other. Is the presentation available for download? Yep, it's going to be on HeroX. EFN just made sure to make a note here that their first office hours begin this Friday, November 4th, and the registration link, I believe Rebecca also put that in the chat. So Tom, we've got that one there, and that information will go on HeroX as well. Next question, could you clarify and or give examples of what revolutionary lithium ion and other battery chemistry solutions would be eligible for the competition?
Yeah, so it's difficult to give examples of revolutionary technologies. It's easier to give examples of what wouldn't be eligible. As we mentioned, if you have a technology that is a lithium ion battery with even significantly improved cost, performance, or safety, those kinds of innovations would not be eligible. If you had a wacky system that included lithium but worked fundamentally differently from a lithium ion battery, that would potentially be eligible. So that's sort of our distinction. And again, if you fall into the latter, or the former category, we really do want to hear from you still. So even if you're not eligible for the prize, we still want to hear about your revolutionary ideas for lithium ion, for lead batteries, for these other technologies that are in that table.
And Ben, I think that same answer, similar, might apply to this last question, which is, what do you mean by technology? Do you only mean novel chemicals? Mm-hmm. Referring to the question a minute ago, there's a technology that helps to extend existing batteries, and there's a technology that helps to recycle, but it appears the definition of technology is somewhat narrower.
Yeah, that's a great question. And this might be something we'll want to release an addendum on, actually. So by technology, we are referring to some kind of system that can be deployed for grid storage. So technologies that might enhance an existing battery or a new recycling technology, those are great. Those are of interest to DOE, but not of interest for this prize. So we are looking specifically for energy storage systems, and that's how we're thinking about technologies.
Great. All right. We've made it through the Q&A section here. We really appreciate everyone submitting their questions. Again, you can email us. We have a prize-specific email address that's listed on HeroX. You can post questions in the forum on HeroX so that other folks can see them as well, and we can answer them there. You can sign up for office hours with EFN to provide some further answers or to bounce some ideas back and forth. And a recording, as well as these slides, will be recording the webinar, and a copy of the slides will be posted on HeroX. So if that's your hub, we encourage everyone to head there, look at what's available, and ask questions if you have them. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming to today's webinar. We're really excited to see what's out there, and best of luck to everyone. Thanks so much.